Hello and welcome to my blog. Today we're going to talk about how to interpret dreams. Did you know the spirit world actually guides us in our sleep? Let's begin. The spirit Astriel, in a conversation with the Reverend G. Vale Owen, discussed how the spirit world helps people when they ask for guidance for a pressing problem. We have all had days where there is something we just can't figure out. A homework assignment from school, a complex algorithm to be designed and coded for work, or a presentation to kick off a new project are just a few samples of what could occupy our minds just before retiring for the night. Many ask for guidance from above in solving their problems. Others focus on the conundrum at hand so diligently that the energy of their thoughts reach the spirit plane in a form of requesting assistance. Astriel reminds the good Reverend that God gave people minds to use, not just to receive instructions. That part of our trials on earth is to learn to solve difficulties on our own. After all, if the teacher gave everyone the answers to the test, why have the test? But, like a good teacher, inquiring minds aren't entirely left to their own devices. After a student has demonstrated their diligence, the teacher will offer advice on how to solve the problem, hints to the path to pursue are supplied to the eager pupil. Astriel recounts how he helped a person to further their knowledge. I remember that once I was impressing a man who was investigating the laws of psychology in the matter of visions and dreams. He wanted to find out what was the cause of certain dreams being prophetic, the connection between the dream itself and the incident which it foreshadowed. He applied to me, and I told him that he must continue his investigations and use his own mind, and, if it were well, he would be given to understand. Therefore, if one demonstrates dedication and hard work toward a goal, you will be assisted. First, the spirit realm must be convinced that a person deserves help. Once that has been established, a whole world of information is opened up. Astriel, in his communications to G. Vale Owen, documented in the book Life Beyond the Veil, published in the 1920s, reveals to us one small facet on how the spirit realm guides and cares for us during our trials here on earth. One aspect of the invisible care we receive is what happens when we dream and how they are structured to help us. Dreams are an escape from our physical body into the spirit realm. In the book Spiritism Review, Journal of Psychological Studies of 1858, published in 2015 by the United States Spiritist Council, there is a dissertation from an unknown spirit about sleep. It supplies a complete survey of what sleep means to souls at different levels and why our dormant state is vital for us. Poor human beings, how little you know about the most ordinary phenomena that exist in your life. You think highly of yourselves. You think you have a vast knowledge and remain speechless before these simple questions framed by all children. What do we do when we are asleep? What is the meaning of dreams? I don't have the pretension of making you understand what I want to explain, since there are things that your spirit cannot submit to, because one can only admit what one can comprehend. Sleep entirely frees the soul from the body. When we are asleep, we are momentarily in the same state that we shall be definitely after death. The spirits that have quickly detached from matter, on the occasion of their death, had intelligent dreams. Those, when sleeping, meet again with a society of other beings that are superior to them, that travel, talk to them, and are enlightened by them. They even work on tasks that they find finalized when they die. This, once more, must teach us that we should not fear death, as we die every day, as once stated by a saint. All this was said with respect to superior spirits. The large majority of people, however, who may remain in that perturbation for long hours, in that uncertainty that you were told about, those individuals go to worlds that are inferior to earth, attracted by old affectations, or to look for pleasures that are even of a lower level than those found here. They will then learn doctrines that are even more vile, ignoble, and harmful than those they profess among you. What establishes the sympathy on earth is nothing else but the fact that we feel attracted by the heart as we wake up to those with whom we have spent 8 or 9 hours of pleasure or happiness. What also establishes the irresistible antipathy is that deep there in the heart we know that those creatures have a different conscience with respect to us. Hence we know them not having ever setting our eyes on them. It is this that also explains the indifference, since we don't seek to make friends when we know that we have others that love us and wish us well. In one word, the sleep influences your lives more than you think. Through sleep, the incarnated spirits are always in contact with the spiritual world, allowing then that the superior spirits, without much repulse, do agree to come to incarnate in your environment. God wanted that, during the contact with vices, they could reinforce their virtues in the source of goodness, so as not to fail as they come to instruct others. Sleep is the door that God opened to them to meet their friends from heaven. It is the break after the work, waiting for the great liberation, the final liberation, that should reintegrate them back to the real world. A dream is the memory of what your spirits saw during the sleep. Notice, however, that you do not always dream, since you do not always remember some of what you have seen or everything that you have seen. It is not your soul in its full detachment. Often it is nothing more than the memory of the perturbation that follows our departure or arrival, added to the memory of what you have done or what worries you during the waking state. Without that, how can we explain those absurd dreams of the scholars as well of the simplest person? The evil spirits also use the dream to torment the weak and pusillanimous souls. As a matter of fact, you will soon see the development of a new kind of dream. It is as old as the one you know, but ignored by you. It is the dream of Joan of Arc, of Jacob, of the Jewish prophets, and of some Indian foretellers. Such a dream represents the memory of the soul, entirely separated from the body, the memory of that second life that I was telling you about some time ago. For the dreams that you retain the memory, try to distinguish well between those two kinds, as without it you shall fall into contradictions and cause dismal mistakes to your faith. At the end of the Spirit's communication, we are being told that some dreams can hold valuable information for us. It is our responsibility to separate the important and relevant dream from the vast majority of nonsense dreams we all have. Astriel, in his conversation with Vale Owen, helps guide us to discern between the important and the fluff we encounter during our dream state. How a dream helped. Astriel tells Vale Owen exactly how he guided the supplicant who wanted to know more about the prophetic dreams. That night I met him when he fell asleep and conducted him to one of our observatories where we experiment with the object of portraying, in visible form, the events hovering about the present moment, that is, events which have happened shortly before and those which will happen shortly in the future. We were not able to go far back or far ahead at that particular establishment. That is done by those in higher spheres. For those who absolutely reject determinism, like I did, the realization that our future is known rips out the foundation of your beliefs. This means that your life on earth is set, not in stone, only in the trials you shall encounter. You have free will to choose your options and attitude during those lessons presented to you. Spiritism also answers the questions of the ability to see forward. Allan Kardec, who wrote the Spirits book in the 1850s, provides the analogy of a high spirit standing on top of a mountain. There is a trail in the canyons below. The spirit can see a person walking along the path. The advanced spirit is able to detect where the person was and where they are going, whereas the person below, he or she only sees the immediate road ahead and can look to the rear to see what has already happened. We are that person on the rough trail, and the spirit world, made up of many levels of ascension, can, determined by the stage of purity, accurately foretell the road ahead. the person who is dreaming will get to see a bit of the road ahead, which was covered in mystery before. We set the instruments in order to cast upon a screen a picture of the neighborhood in which he lived, and told him to watch intently. One particular item was the entry into town of some great personage with a large retinue. When the display was over, he thanked us, and we conducted him back to his earth body again. Hence, Astriel arranged for the inquiring gentleman a demonstration of a prophetic dream. Astriel gave him the gift of seeing ahead so that he could determine for himself what the dream meant. The interpretation of the dream. He awoke in the morning with a feeling that he had been in the company of certain men who had been experimenting in some branch of science, but could not recall what it had been about. But as he was going about his work that morning, the face of the man he had seen in the procession came to his mind vividly, and then he remembered several scraps of his dream experience. On opening a newspaper a few days afterwards, he saw an intimation that a visit was projected to the town and district of this same personage. Then he began to reason things out for himself. He did not remember the observatory, nor the screen pictures we had shown him as such, but he did remember the face and the retinue. So he reasoned in this way: when our bodies sleep, we ourselves, at least sometimes, go into the sphere of 4 dimensions. That 4th dimension is such as enables those who dwell there to see into the future, but coming back to this realm of 3 dimensions, we are not able to carry over with us all that we have experienced when we ourselves have been in the realm of 4. Yet we do manage to hold such items as we are natural to this lower realm, such as the face of an earth dweller and a retinue in procession. Astriel explains the relationship between the dream and the reality of the experience. The connection, then, between such a dream as foreseen and the events themselves is the relation of a state of 4 dimensions to a state of 3, and the former, being of greater capacity than the latter, covers at any moment a wider range of view as to time and sequence of events than the latter can do. We, who live in a 3-dimensional world, where we can place in view objects given width, height, and depth, time is held constant. Our eyes can only view in 2 dimensions, but our brain enables us to infer the 3rd coordinate. Now, suppose you are a creature of 4 dimensions. You detect width, height, depth, and time. You see the object not in a snapshot, but in all phases of its existence. Breaking this down further, I found another analogy from Wikipedia that postulates what a 2-dimensional being would think about a 3-dimensional being. Dimensional analogy was used by Edwin Abbott in the book Flatland, which narrates a story about a square that lives on a 2-dimensional world, like the surface of a piece of paper. From the perspective of this square, a 3-dimensional being has seemingly godlike powers, such as the ability to remove objects from a safe without breaking it open by moving them across the 3rd dimension, to see everything that from the 2-dimensional perspective is enclosed behind walls, and to remain completely invisible by standing a few inches away in the 3rd dimension. Now, take the analogy one more step and think of us living our lives in a 3D movie. The movie has a beginning and an end. The plot spans hours, although we, as actors in the film, notice only the part we are currently playing. Each scene is real life to us, but a high spirit standing outside our range of sight sees the build-up to the current scene and the result of the actions we take in our present time. We, as the actors caught in the digital representation of the film, have no concept of the audience who hovers around us watching our lives unfold. What would happen if you took the actor out of the movie and placed him or her in the audience? They would have a difficult time trying to understand what precisely they are seeing and could only interpret it through their own point of view. Hence, our dreams are invariably muddled. Our brains are able to cipher the simpler concepts, and we, for the most part, misinterpret the fourth-dimensional aspects of our dreaming experience. Lesson learned. Given the limitations of our physical bodies, the man who wished to understand prophetic dreams was able to unlock a key concept about dreams and the spirit realm. Astriel summarizes his achievement thusly. Now, by the use of his own mental faculties, he had arrived at as great an advance in knowledge as I could have given him direct, and by doing so he had also advanced in mental training and power. For although his conclusion was not such as we would pass muster here, without rectification in several points, yet it was roundly and broadly correct, and serviceable for all practical purposes intellectually. I could not have infused into him more than he had found out for himself. We are part of the spirit realm. Our immortal souls live the vast majority of the time in a world with at least 4 dimensions, maybe more the higher one travels. Each time we incarnate, we temporarily lose our past and must live in the present, but we aren't left without any tools. We have our conscience and instincts, and we can journey back to the other side to receive assistance. We have been granted the gift of leaving our bodies during sleep. It is up to each individual to determine for his or herself what their dreams mean to them and how closely they should follow the perceived lessons resulting from a vivid dream experience. If you are interested more in how the spirit world guides us, please read my book, How We Are Guided by Spirits, Book 3 of Spiritism. Book 3 illustrates the ground game of the spirit world via the messages of multiple spirits to the Reverend G. Vale Owen. We are presented examples of how the spirit realm above us peers down upon their unruly students. The process of tracking and modifying behavior on an individual and a collective basis is revealed. Even the broader direction of human society in the future is posted for all to see. God bless.